Does it make sense to put in an oral at the very start of a cycle to kickstart it when you haven't even built your volume up to a point yet where it's time to What's up guys, Derek, moreplacemordays.com. Today we're going to be talking about periodization, and this is not going to be the traditional outline of periodization that you normally hear about in the training, not even like training community. I don't know, like guys who talk about hypertrophy like blocks or strength blocks, you know, where you are essentially periodizing your volume in order to get up to a point where you are, you know what I'm talking about. If you know what periodization is, it's a term that is often allocated towards your training schedule in terms of either a hypertrophy or a strength training block where one or the other is the goal. Now, what a lot of people don't talk about though, when it comes to that, is the periodization of drug use. And this is something that I think goes very overlooked because you see guys very, very often still when they go into a cycle with a pre-designed plan of exactly what they're going to use on a week-to-week basis, and that dosage is static. It has nothing to do with their recovery needs. It has nothing to do with their own like biofeedback from their own body. They're just literally going into a cycle with a piece of paper that says week 1 to 12, 500 tests, 400 deca, and they just run it like the whole fucking thing. Like, does that make any actual sense? No, it doesn't, because your needs are going to change as your volume increases, as your food increases, as your recovery gets fucking hindered because of the volume you're allocating to yourself or the progressive overload that you may otherwise need more androgens to support. Whatever it is, your needs on day one are not the same as they are in the middle, nor are they the same at the tail end when you're trying to just fucking crush yourself into the ground. So does it make sense to overly expose yourself at the beginning? Or does it make more sense to titrate up accordingly based on demand? So this is where the periodization of drug use comes into play. And I'm not saying you need to or you don't need to or you know anything. I'm just saying deploy things as needed. Don't just go into something pre-designed like this is exactly what I need for this. Base it on your own biofeedback. Base it on your own anticipated training demands and your own response to that training and your recovery. Are you at a point where every single pound you gain is like 90% fat at this point, and it's just like you're clearly not responding well to increased volume or increased food in response to try and accommodate that volume? Maybe at this point you need more androgen support. Maybe you need some other vector that's going to support recovery. Maybe you need something from another category. You know, there are reasons to add it in, but it's not just arbitrary, pull it out of your fucking ass. Like, this is the design cycle on a piece of paper from week 1 to 16, and you have to follow this exact dose. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. At least in my opinion, I don't think it should be designed like that. I think you should go in with essentially a therapeutic replacement amount. Well, I guess it depends if you're cruising or not. And then from there, it titrates up according to essentially your, you know, however you want to call it, your mesocycle, whatever it is, however you want to call this block of time that you've kind of like allocated for, okay, I'm going to try and focus on maximum hypertrophy for the next 16 weeks. That block of time is not just 500 tests, 400 deca, or like 500 tests, 500 primo, whatever the fuck, for 16 weeks straight. That's not from day one. It should not be like that, in my opinion. I think it should periodize and be set up in a way that titrates up according to demand and actual workload exerted on yourself and the actual recovery demands you're imposing on your body. So keep that in mind, because a lot of people are just abusing drugs unnecessarily or just not understanding when or why to deploy things. Like, does it make sense to have an oral on day one to kind of like, kickstart the cycle when you like haven't even got your volume up to a point where yet when you can't even fucking talk. Does it make sense to put in an oral at the very start of a cycle to kickstart it when you haven't even built your volume up to a point yet where it's time to, you know, an ideal time to try and maximize the progressive overload vector? Like, you know, just like think about it logically when you are actually deploying compounds, as well as something that's going to kill your appetite or something that is going to put your body in a overabundantly toxic state from the get-go when you haven't even gotten to the peak of the middle of the hypertrophy phase, where it's now time to actually push all the different vectors as hard as you can. You've already kind of like tapped out many parts of your body's, I don't know, like antioxidant resources and your ability to tolerate shit and just get enough food down. Like there's so many like nonsensical like bro lore things in the community, like kick off the cycle for 6 weeks with this, and this is blah, 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 blah. Use exactly this much test for this much this for 12 weeks. This is the best cycle. And it's like, no, what you'd use should be based on your own feedback, your own side effects, your own goals, your own whatever the fuck. A multitude of different factors that can't be predetermined just by what like the best bulking cycle is that you found on X forum. It should be based on exactly what you're trying to do. Is it strength focused? Is it hypertrophy focused? What type of a body do you have? Like, do you hold a fucking shit ton of water? Are you very dry? Are you somebody who metabolizes estrogen slowly? Are you somebody who, whatever? There's a myriad of different things. And before I go onto a tangent of all the different rabbit holes, like again, allocate drugs to when they're needed, basically. Don't just go in with some like pre-designed plan based on nothing. Go in and introduce things according to when it makes sense to deploy them and not preemptively for no actual logical reason. Like when you're going to introduce something, ask yourself, do I need more of this? Is this the ideal compound to be introducing for whatever exactly I am trying to do? Do I have enough of something that is a substrate for aromatase? Can I introduce more on top of this without introducing side effects? What kind of compound would stack alongside this that is a, tissue selective anabolic that would otherwise not exacerbate blah, 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 It's kind of like, does it make sense to put in an oral? And if so, would it make more sense to put it in at the beginning when I haven't even fucking really got into the neck of the woods in terms of trying to peak in terms of my lifts and whatnot, and I basically just exhausting my fucking resources from the get-go? Or does it make more sense to maybe leverage something closer to the tail end if I have to by chance break through a strength plateau and I've already pulled out all the stops? And even, I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying what would make more logical sense if you were going to do that. So that is the idea. Just drugs are used on an as needed basis based on exactly what you need, not based on some predetermined bullshit. So, and when I say circling back to the periodizing your drug use, this should be based on, again, everything is titrated up. You don't just jump from 3,000 calories to 5,000 calories, nor do you jump from, fucking 80 working sets a week to 120 working sets a week. You jump from a little bit, up a little bit, up a little bit as needed. Once you've stopped gaining weight for fucking 2 weeks straight, you probably should have increased your calories. You are recovering just fine. You haven't tried, pushing your body further and increase the volume. You're recovering fine. Fucking push that shit, and you need more drugs. Well, too late. You've already started from a gram from day one. No, you should have been at just the super physiological amount to induce the amount of anabolism you need, and then you titrate up accordingly, just like you would where you slightly increase the food and the training volume and the intensity. You know what I mean? So yeah, just at the end of the day, treat it exactly the same way you would treat food, training, etc. It all titrates up accordingly based on your needs, not based on predetermined, take a fucking bunch of gear for the entire time and don't consider anything. So take from that what you will. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. All the comments help the algorithm, so they're much appreciated. Please like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com, follow me on Instagram, and moreplates_, more dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, if you want to listen on audio instead of burn through your data on YouTube. Anything in the video description helps support the channel, so check out that stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.